Alrighty, Lumberjacks, welcome back. And today we're going to be looking at the 1.9 mod update. So this is coming out pretty fast compared to our normal wait time on mod updates. Mainly because these two new beautiful toys came into the works here. And DC Equipment, the owners of Madill, would like to get these out to you guys so you can play with them. So I do have a little bit of patch notes that we're going to go over for some fixes since the 1.8 update. But this is definitely a lot faster of an update coming out than what I normally do. So to kick things off, the two new additions to this update are going to be the Madill 3000B and the Madill 4000. So again, FDR Logging has been working with DC Equipment, who is now the owners of the company Madill. And I've had an awesome time working with Jason and Tom there to get these machines built for the game and set up, and they are absolutely stunning. Big thanks to both of them. It was an awesome project that worked out really good. They are very highly detailed, lots of goodies in them. Spared no expense of getting every little detail correct to the new versions of these machines. So I have personally run these machines in real life, the Madills. So these are the new remodeled versions since DC Equipment took over. So these might look a little bit different compared to the previous versions that you may know from your own personal life or from the game before. Just different style body, a little bit different coloring on some of the logos and stuff like that. But overall, they're still pretty much exactly the same style Madill machines with the bodies and stuff like that. Obviously, you can get into more details and go read the product guides and all that stuff to see more about those in real life. But awesome looking machines. So obviously, we got the 4000 here, which is a little bit of a beefier, larger body style, and then you have the 3000, which is a little bit smaller. It's a little bit tighter. Probably work better if you're working on the smaller landings or moving smaller wood, that kind of stuff. They also have the winches like the other ones. All the track machines have these winches. If you're doing some kind of crazy steep slope stuff, or you're working on some wacky spots where you want to pull them up. Yeah, and then the interiors are both pretty much identical on both interiors, but you got very detailed interiors. Again, big thank you to DC Equipment, who gave us these actual models and reconfigured them so that they would work in the game well. But the models are absolutely beautiful, very highly detailed, and it'll feel like you're sitting in a real one. So it's pretty awesome. I'm really excited to get these out here. So yeah, those are both the new toys. I think you guys will absolutely love them. I've been playing with them lots in my own single player, and I just freaking love them. So we actually have one of these out at the landing here, which will kind of get us started on using them, and will let us go over the patch notes. So again, those are the two new toys. You get the Madill 3000B and the 4000. Now we're going to go over some patch notes. There's not a crazy amount of changes. It's just some stuff that people have brought up since the 1.8 update. So in the 1.8 update, the grapples all had a big improvement. They were really, really exceptionally improved. I think they're working great. With the weight increase on the grapples in order to play with the wood nicer, it made the machines a little more rickety, like they a little more tippy feeling when you're working. So lots of feedback about that from people saying the machines felt a little too unbalanced for the weight of the heads. So that has been changed now. The machines have a little bit of a change in the suspension that I did, and a little bit of weight increase in certain parts. It's not really crazy increase. It's just minor little stuff I did to kind of increase the stability of the machine overall. But you'll find working with these guys, they sit on the landings a lot nicer. They're way less jittery. They don't have as much give in the suspensions as they did before, but they still operate really, really well. So the first patch note here I'm going to go over is the button top grapple. So the button top grapple in the previous update was a little bit wonky. It had some issues with grabs and some issues with hanging onto the logs. So I just took this one back to the drawing board and I did a little bit of work on it. So you're going to find now when you go to do grabs, it doesn't grab quite as hard as it did before, but it still holds the logs excellent. It just fixed the issue people were having with it being a little jittery. So what would happen is you'd grab logs before, and sometimes they would try to slip and slide back and forth in the grapple. So I just kind of really took this one apart and played with it a bit and tried to kind of balance out the best feel for it. And I think now it feels a lot better than it did. I don't think it'll ever be 100% perfect, but honestly, I've been loading trucks with this guy and it feels pretty darn good. As you can see, it acts pretty nice while you're working with it. Yeah, pretty much all the other grapples were fine. This one was just one that came out of note that kind of had some issues. So again, as long as you're moving slow and you're not doing anything too crazy while you're loading and working, the machines sit really stable. Again, if you're going to shake the logs around and act all crazy, you're going to see some suspension give, you know, just like real life. If you try to do something that's crazy with the machine, you're going to get tip. So the key really, honestly, and I always tell people this, just like real life, move slow and methodical. Don't rush it. Any kind of jerky moves and maneuvers and shaking around all crazy is going to cause issues. So the slower you go and the smoother you operate, you know, just be really gentle with everything at first, especially when you're new and you're learning. Go really slow, take your time, there's no rush, and then just place your logs gently and open everything up slowly, turn your head slowly, and then you won't have any jitters. But overall, the suspension of these things feels a lot better. You know, like you're not going to get as much of a crazy tip. It feels pretty good. These heads are definitely still very heavy, but they kind of have to be to react realistically to the logs. So just be gentle. Don't go crazy with it. Actually, we're going to put this, or you know what? We'll just leave this here. This is fine. Because I was going to show off some of the other grapple stuff here too. One other note I had just above the grapples was the brush cutter. So there's that brush cutter attachment that can fit onto these. You can use it for cleaning up logs and doing that kind of stuff. It was for the skid steer, but you can also attach it to these. I just fixed the attachment point so that it connects to the head better, because it was missing some stuff in there that made it kind of difficult for some people to connect it to the track machines. So that's been fixed now. Maybe we'll do the buncher head first. We'll come back here. So the buncher head, again, got a whole bunch of feedback about the buncher head. So the buncher head has been changed. So the biggest feedback I had was that it still was cutting too high for some people, leaving way too large of a stump. So what I did is I made it so that the cut node is a lot lower to the ground now. Sometimes it'll erase the stump entirely if you're right flat with the ground, and then sometimes it leaves just a teeny little nub behind. But for the people that were having issues with it, you're going to find it cuts a lot lower to the ground than it did before. Like so. Again, it just leaves just barely a cookie of a slice there. And with the new weights on these track machines now, it settles a lot nicer while you're working. So as you can see, it just leaves that little sliver on the ground of the bigger trees. And then little trees, it'll probably just delete the stump right out of there. What else do we do to this thing? We improved the speed of the opening and closing of the arms. So these will open and close a little bit faster than they did before, both sets. That was some feedback that I got from people saying when they were doing kind of the snatch and grab on the trees here. They found that they weren't closing fast enough and they dropped the secondary tree. So now those close pretty fast. They probably close a teeny bit faster than what real life is for sure, even at full throttle there, but they do handle quite well. And as you can see, even these big, really hefty trees, they handle the logs quite well. The other thing I changed on these was the destruction node. So the destruction node is that little bit on the ground that when you have it lowered, so if you press V as in Victor on your keyboard, it'll raise and lower, as you can see in the top corner. It'll raise and lower that invisible node, which allows you to destroy the ground. So if it's lowered, it'll cause this to happen to the ground when you push. If you press V for Victor again, it'll raise it, and then that effect won't be there anymore if you don't want to destroy the ground. So V for Victor lowers it so you can cut the ground. So what I did is I basically just turned down that destruction node a little bit, because before you could be like this far off the ground and be plowing the ground with it. Now you kind of really got to get down there, and you can actually kind of backblade with your tongs a bit. And it's a little less aggressive than it was in the last update. It still leaves marks on the grounds, because I know lots of guys like that, and you do need that effect if you want to get rid of these bushes and stuff. That's kind of the main reason that is there, so that if you have a bush that you want to get rid of, like these bushes here, like I said, if I push V for Victor to raise it, you can see I can't get rid of these bushes if they won't go away. So if I lower that node, I can get rid of all that brush and stuff. So if you're cutting roads or cutting areas, you want that ability. So again, it's a little bit less aggressive, so that it's not quite like you're painting the ground 24/7, but the effect is still there for those who liked it. Okay, on to the next one. So the dangle heads. The dangle heads have had a big change to improve them, and I got a bunch of them over here. Maybe we'll do, actually let's do the processor first, because the processor is right here. The only thing I've done to the processor to change it is the knives. So these knives on the back here, I made them a little bit more responsive, and so that they grab a little less hard. So in some moments of multiplayer, you may have seen me where I try to grab something, and if you grab too hard and it slips off, what happens sometimes, it would cause the head to start spinning. Like one of those little knives would start spinning in a really weird way in a circle, and it was really messed up, and it was just really glitchy. So now you can grab these guys as hard as you want, and they stay where they are. They don't get all glitched out. So in turn, it grabs a little less hard. You can still pick up these big logs, like no problem. But when you're running it through, you won't have as much grab on that back arm either. So minimizing the amount of grab on that back knife claw there will cause it to slide through the arm a bit better. And that also counts for if you're manually running, which I'll do here in 1 second. Let's finish this. It's okay, we need a pile of shorts here anyway, because I want to show you guys the dangle heads. So again, when you're running this stuff back and forth, having less grip on these knives now allows you to get a much smoother roll through too. So that worked out quite well. So we're just going to chuck that over there. We're going to cut one more tree because I want to do a test here. So again, even when I'm swinging to grab like these small amounts, without it being so firm of a grab, you can really kind of feel your way around the pile to get the tree that you want. Before, they were such a stiff arm that you couldn't really get into the pile. Like it would almost like get stuck on the trees. So now you can kind of like, you know, feel your way around. You can put your claw right down in there and get it and grab it, and it just feels a lot better. This is really minor changes, like minor stuff. To some people probably won't even notice the difference, but for people that are constantly processing like me, you'll notice a big change there for sure. So I'm just going to make kind of an ugly little pile here. I'm not being really specifically nice here. Okay, so that's the processor head. Not a big change. It's on all the processor heads, not just this one specifically. So we're just going to leave that there. So the dangle heads. All of the dangle heads have had a increase in their ability to do dangle head stuff. So all I've done is I've increased... Oops, there we go. I've increased the weight of these heads so that they're a lot more dominating of the wood, basically. So they improved their grip strength, improved their weights. So now when you're grabbing trees in groupings, you're going to find... Here, my processor head's getting a little frisky here. 1 sec. I'm just going to get rid of that. Grab that, and we'll just chuck her... Oh, maybe I can't grab it. Probably not the best way to transport this in real life, but we'll just pull it here. You know what? I don't want to get lifted. We'll just flicker down the hill here with our uber strength. Go over here. Play down there. Good processor head. So now you're going to find when you're grabbing logs from piles with these dangle heads, they just have a lot more dominating power of the log. So they're going to be easier to handle. They're going to be easier to control. It just feels a whole lot better than previous updated versions. Because now, like I said, your trees stay locked in there a lot better. When you're loading, they just balance a lot better. Your head with all that extra weight on it now has more of a balancing effect with the logs. So you're not really fighting the weight of the logs anymore, because that head keeps them really, really stable while you're swinging around. Even if you come to a break, they'll teeter a bit, but like when you're putting it in the bunks and stuff, like as you can see, it grabs really nice, and I can keep the logs pretty secure. I put them back into the deck just as straight as they came out, and the same difference. It's for all dangle grapples, so like this pulpwood grapple here and the skitter grapple, which isn't, I don't have it on this one here, but the skitter grapple is the same effect. Let's tilt this down. Skitter grapple and the pulpwood grapple both have that same effect, where it's a lot of mass on the end of that arm now. As they are in real life, they're pretty hefty little buckets. So with that mass, you just get a lot of control of the logs. So, you know, if let's go this way here. Hopefully they don't fall out because we're being a little aggressive here. Whoop, they might. Don't do stuff like that. There we go. But even that, in the last update, if you were to do that, those things would have been flying across the moon. So if you're carrying anything in a dangle head, make sure you're doing really soft turns. Don't jerk the arm around and have it break. But as you can see, it sits really stable. So when I'm going in for grabs and stuff, it's really nice, drops into the trailer. Feels really, really smooth. So let's grab a bunch of these here. Should be able to get all those. Again, you see how it sits really strong. It almost feels like you have like hold down cable chain inside there, even though there is no chain. It almost feels like that because the logs sit really stable. So I've actually been using these dangle heads a lot more now, strictly because it's super, super cozy. I also made the same changes to the dangle felling head, added some weight and some grip stuff. So you'll find the dangle felling head falls under the same basic category as this stuff. Oops. There we go. So you can get in there. So again, if you're grabbing anything off kilter, try to make sure if you're using a dangle head, you're grabbing center. I had to teach that to a couple people that were having troubles. The more centralized you can grab it, the better the balance. And like I said, it's really easy to load with this stuff now. And these are pretty oblong, big logs. With that extra weight, too, you're going to find you can tamp down the logs a little bit better. These ones are pretty heavy, so I don't think they're going to go anywhere. But as you can see, that whole trailer is giving out to the strength and weight of that grapple now. And in real life, a lot of times when you're pushing logs down into decks and stuff, it's nice because in real life, the weight of the grapple will push that down. As opposed to the last version, 1.8 grapples, they're really flimsy and didn't have a lot of weight to them. So what would happen is you'd go to tamp down the top of a load or do a push down, and they would just kind of float on the top. But as you can see now, a lot of that weight pushes down into the logs and keeps it real nice. And again, this is pretty minute, minor changes. Like I said, a lot of people may not even notice this kind of stuff, but it is, however, a change, so I want to make it clear that that change has been made. I'm just going to do a couple of grabs. Again, even on loading, like as you notice, it balances a lot nicer. It sits a lot more level. And you can grab really, really big grabs and a lot of control there. I'm not feeling like I'm having to fight this at all. There's a lot of control there. And really nice execution for lifting and lowering the logs. I don't think I can get another bite here and try to get these two. But even grabbing two of these larger logs, they're not really freaking out or going anywhere. They're sitting quite nicely, considering there's only two and there's no hold down cable. Yeah, and like I said, you can unload and load it and still keep the deck really nice. So yeah, so that's basically it. It's a very small update. The 1.9 is not like a huge game changer by any means. I do love the introduction of these new Madills. I think you guys are going to just go bonkers for those because they are absolutely stunning. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them below, or you can also email any bug reports to www.fdrlogging.com/bug reports. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the update, and we will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.